Hi YouTube, it's Kathy and this is my weekly entertainment wrap-up for January 19th through 25th. This week I read 3 books, I watched 1 show, I watched 2 movies, and I listened to 1 book. Didn't need you to settle down, buddy. Got the clickety-clacks. Apologies throughout this video, you will probably hear little tiny clickety-clacks because we have corgis staying with us this week and they're adorable and they've got the tiny little legs and the clickety-clacks on the hardwood and it's very cute, but I imagine you're gonna be hearing it. Hi buddy. You know I'm sitting by the food. I don't give you the food. I'm not the food human. The first book that I finished this week is Reclaiming Two Spirits. This one actually took me about 2 weeks to read because it is incredibly dense, although obviously very important reading material. This one goes back through the history of colonialism of North America, primarily within the United States of America sort of area of Turtle Island, and talks about the various different people who invaded, thought that the customs of the indigenous people were weird, and sought to eradicate them. But obviously this pays particular attention to all of the queer people who have always been here and will always be here. For whatever reason, all of these Europeans were just very hard-pressed every time they saw what they thought was a man in female clothing. And really, you could just mind your own damn business and we would be in a very different place. This goes through as much of the historical evidence as the author could find about different tribes and different customs and different words for different types of gender identities. And then it goes all the way up to the present day of the book itself, obviously also going through when the term Two-Spirit was actually coined in the 90s. And even discussing that there are some people that think that it might be too academic and that there might be a different word in use at some point. I feel like I'm completely underselling the value of this book. Like I said, it took me about 2 weeks to get through, and that's because it is incredibly dense. I would feel like I'd been reading it for ages, only to realize I'd only read like 3 pages of it. So let me repeat. Queer folks have always been here, they will always be here, and they've historically always been under attack since colonialism, and we just need to keep fighting. On a much lighter note, the next book I read was The Prince of the Palisades by Julian Winters. This was adorable. It's been a while since I read a Julian Winters and I just really love his writing, and I really love the little nods to other things in his universe, if you will, because there was a nod to these 2 characters that I'm pretty sure are from another book, and I can't remember the title right now. It's something at The Summer of Everything, that's the one. And then there were other characters that share names with different authors who write in the same genre, so yeah, I liked little things like that. Our protagonist in this one is Prince Jaden. He is the spare in the heir and the spare situation when it comes to a small island nation whose name translates to Isle of Dreams. I would say the official French name for this nation, but my best friend watches these and she likes to roast how bad my accent is. He is currently in a little bit of a banishment situation because he said some not great things about the prime minister of their small nation, and his dad, the king, said, yeah, you're not allowed back in the country until you've sorted some stuff out. So he's currently in California because that's where he was when he was venting about those things, and somebody caught it on camera and the video went viral. And now he finds himself having to attend this high school with all of these other elite type of students, and he just wants to put his head down and get through this so he can go home. But does he end up making some friends and maybe some romances along the way? Yes, he does. I don't have the direct quote written down, although I did write it into an Instagram story the other day and tag Julian, and he actually reshared it, which was just delightful, made my day. But there was a quote in this that was something to the effect of, you do not have to be perfect, but you do have to keep trying. And I'm just like, dude, are you in my head right now? This one has lots of different hijinks, from trying to date while being royal, to having people from your past who you don't want to see just show up, to learning how to stand up for what you think is right, not what the country says you think is right. This was absolutely delightful, and at this point there's a few other Julian Winters books that I haven't read. I've allowed a little bit of a backlog to acquire, so I think it's time to read more. Third thing I finished, I only picked up because of the one TV show I watched this week, so I'm going to talk about it briefly and then move on to the TV show, which is an adaptation and far better than what it was adapted from, in my opinion. The book in question was a graphic novel called Bodies, which is a collection of the 8 issues of this graphic novel. This has an interesting premise wherein 4 detectives in 4 vastly different time frames in London are responsible for solving the mysterious death of this person found in Long Harvest Lane. It's the same body every time, the same injuries, and the same weird mark on their wrist. If you think that premise is interesting, please hold on until I talk about my next thing, because Actually reading this graphic novel, I had no idea what was going on half the time. This is one of those things where they took a really good idea from one medium and transferred into a different medium with a completely different storyline. I actually had to look up reviews of this graphic novel so I could at least try to figure out what the hell was going on, because there was so much writing in this that I was just like, I don't get it. I don't get what you're trying to say. And then once I read a really extensive review, I was like, oh, okay, you're trying to say that there have always been immigrants and different type of people in the UK, and you just need to get over that. That's just how it's going to be. We are always going to be multicultural. I think that's what I was trying to say. It didn't do a very good job. So moving on to the one show I watched this week, that was Bodies, which has 8 episodes, and I've watched some of them more than once. I'm not going to say that this adaptation is perfect. One, it's not a direct adaptation. The biggest thing is we have 4 detectives who find the same body in the same place in London, and they are trying to solve this crime, or in one case they're trying to cover it up because of things going on. But the show takes this premise a step further with some maybe time travel aspects, which when you've watched the show and then you go back to read the graphic novel, you're like, why is there no time travel in this? Because it's a pretty big part of it. Honestly, comparing the two things is really silly because they have the same premise and they have basically the same 4 characters that are the main characters in each of those timelines, but even some of those characters are vastly different than how they're portrayed in the graphic novels. So again, if you have to pick one, I would pick the TV show. It's beautifully shot. It was very interesting to see these 4 different versions of London, but you know, in the same area. And one thing that didn't come up at all in the show, but I definitely thought of because we're in the Whitechapel area, is this is also where the Jack the Ripper murders were happening. And one of our time frames is pretty close to when that was happening, although I think it was actually a year before that, so I'd actually have to look it up. By the end of this, I definitely had questions because I went, well, if this is a thing and this is a thing, then this could never have been a thing, so I don't understand how this happened in the first place. So if you've seen the whole show, please try to change my mind on that, because really don't understand how it happened. As for the movies I watched, the first one was Sonic the Hedgehog. I had never seen this before and I knew nothing about it going into it. I didn't know any of the casting, so when the villain showed up, I was absolutely delighted because it was like watching a movie from my childhood, because this actor was very big when I was younger and he brought all of his mannerisms that you would expect to a role like this, so that was fantastic. I didn't really know what to expect going into this because, like I said, I knew nothing about the casting. I've also not touched a Sony gaming unit in at least 25 years, probably more than that. So although I'm pretty sure I played Sonic at some point in my youth, I'm not deep into the lore of it. I remember that you were collecting rings and you were running around real fast, and that's about it. In this movie we have Sonic. He is from a different world than ours and he uses the rings to actually go between different places in the universe because people are after him because he has a lot of power. We see him having to leave his homeworld when he's very, very young, and then we're now 10 years later, he's on Earth and he doesn't have any friends because he's supposed to keep himself hidden, but he has attached himself to this family unit and basically just kind of watches movies with them, but they don't know he's there and that type of thing. Then as he's preparing to move on because he thinks danger is coming to him, shenanigans ensue. It's fun, it's interesting, and like I said, having this actor come out of retirement to fill this role was kind of fun. Also, a lot of this apparently was shot in a town that's fairly close to me, so we spent a lot of time on like the main drag sequence going, I think I know exactly where that is in Ladysmith. Or when they're driving on the highway, we're like, that's our highway, I'm pretty sure. And this is actually something that happens quite often here in BC, so I was not surprised. But it's fun to know ahead of time and then to look at things and be like, sure, that's that place. It's really not that place. The second movie we watched was Sonic the Hedgehog 2, which is the one movie that would be really, really good if they put the, second half of the title Electric Boogaloo, because dude has EMP powers, so like, why not? But alas, they did not. This one is a continuation of the last one, so I don't really want to tell you too much about it, although there was definitely a scene that was in Seattle, and I could tell it was in Vancouver, just based on a street sign I saw, and I was like, ah, yes, even I know that that is Vancouver, to the surprise of no one. What I like about these movies is they are completely random. These characters get into completely random shenanigans, which must be absolutely fun to film and react to as actors. For example, and I hope this isn't too much of a spoiler, characters will be on a beach in Hawaii and then all of a sudden a portal will open and things that are very not beach-like will come through it. Also, I was absolutely delighted as soon as I saw who somebody was getting married to, because it's the guy that plays Derek Morgan on Criminal Minds, and I love him. And in all these years, I've never heard somebody actually say his first name before, and I don't want to say it wrong, so I'm not going to. These movies were very fun, and mostly we watched them because the cinema near us is actually bringing back $5 Tuesdays for a few weeks, so we're planning to go watch the third movie, which is currently in theaters, on Tuesday for $5, which is why we were like, well, if we want to watch that, we should probably watch the first two, because I'd never seen them. I don't think Chad had seen them, and I don't know if Megan had seen them. But yeah, we've heard really good things about the third one, and we're like, well, we should probably know what we're getting ourselves into before we go and watch one in the theater. More coffee, please. As for the audiobook I listened to this week, that was Bad Cree. This is all about this woman who is living in Vancouver, but she's originally from Grand Prairie, Alberta. And due to some things that happened there, she decided that she needed to leave, spread her wings, that kind of thing. Unfortunately, she's been having some really weird dreams recently. And in this dream that keeps recurring a couple of times when she was like grabbing at branches while running through the forest, she could swear that when she woke up, she still had a branch in her hand and it disappeared. And as we're meeting her, she's actually just come back with an entire crow's head in her fist. And she's like, this is not great. So she finally tells a friend at work about it because this is getting out of hand. That friend tells her that she has to contact her aunties or her mother or somebody to talk about this, which ends up in her actually going home for the first time in about 3 years, which is a really big deal because she hasn't been home since her cookum died, and she definitely didn't go home when one of her sisters died either. However, going back and figuring this out with her Indigenous family is of the utmost importance. I thought this was really cool, and I really enjoyed that this character went back and then found out that there's other people in her family who also have these kind of dream powers, but nobody's powers are exactly the same. And I guess powers is a little bit more extreme than what it is. Like, some of them can see things and then they realize that they've seen things that are coming in the future. Some of them are seeing things from the past, but ultimately they just want to know why this is happening. I thought that this was an incredibly wonderful exploration of grief and family and just trying to be there for each other, and the different ways that people will try to dampen down any type of grief or pain. The writing in this was also absolutely gorgeous. I hope this author has other books because I am definitely interested in reading them. That's it for this week. If you've read, watched, or listened to any of these, let me know about it down in the comments below. On the way down to the comments, if you hit that subscribe button, that would be very nice of you. If you don't feel like leaving a comment but want to make sure that I know you were here, just leave me an emoji or a smiley face if you happen to be on your keyboard. Some people have asked if there's a way to financially support this channel, so I set up a Ko-fi account, which is a digital tipping service. The link for that, as always, is down below. You can like and share this as you see fit, and I will see you very soon. Bye!